Right, I believe we are.
Right, we're live now, just let everyone know.
Screen and
Right, good evening everyone and welcome to the Weymouth Town Council meeting of the Environment Services Committee on the 22nd of April 2026, and welcome to anyone online and also to the members of the public that are in the room this evening. So we'll crack on straight away to apologies for absence, item 2. So I'm aware of absence, apologies for absence from Councillor Jill Taylor, who's unable to be with us this evening. There is a slim chance she might turn up, but at this stage that seems unlikely. Are there any further apologies?
very much.
No. So members are asked to approve the apologies and substitutions. Please can I have a show of hands to approve the apologies received. Unanimous. And at this point, I'm obviously lacking a vice chair. Is there anyone that feels willing to vice chair this evening?
Well, mine is good practice.
I'd like to propose Ryan Hope.
I'll second that.
Wonderful. Do we have to do a vote? All those in favour? All those against? And any abstentions? Oh, you're a four.
Yes.
Okay, it's
Unanimous.
Thank you for that clarity.
Good to know you have such confidence in yourself.
Just wait for Alex to make his. Wait for Ryan to make his way to the front. Someone from Western. Right. Okay. So onwards. Item 3 are the declarations of interest. We haven't had any pre-notified for any of the items this evening. Are there any that sprung to mind?
Yeah.
Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. No surprise to the committee, I'll be declaring an interest in the free parking allocations as a non-pecuniary interest. An organisation that I belong to has applied for the free use of motocross.
Any others? Any other declarations? If you think of anything as you go along, just raise your hand and we can note it as we go through. Okay, item 4, minutes of the last meeting, which was held on the 4th of March 2026, and we are being asked to agree that those minutes are a true and accurate record and that they be signed as such. Is there anyone that would like to comment on the minutes before we go to a vote? No? Okay, all those in favour? Again, is unanimous. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, sorry, I'll propose those. I'll seconded. Still doing it. Number 5. Council questions. We haven't had any submitted in advance. Any burning issues to bring up now? No. So we'll move straight on to item 6, public questions. So we have had a question submitted in advance by Jane Chandler from the Friends of Greenhill Gardens. Would you like to come up and ask a question?
Right, want me to read it up?
If you could, that'd be wonderful. You don't have to. You don't have to.
You carry on.
Okay. Shall I read it out? So this was a question received. The trustees of Friends of Greenhill Gardens know that Weymouth Town Council and Dorset Council are aware of the subsidence in Greenhill Gardens and indeed the road and pavement above. However, they would like reassurance that this work will be done within the next couple of years. And the response is going to come from Town Clerk Jane Biskin.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, Weymouth Town Council would like to thank the trustees of Friends of Greenhill Gardens for the valuable volunteer work they do and continue to do and undertake in maintaining and supporting Greenhill Gardens, which is a much loved and very highly valued local amenity. As reported to the February Finance and Governance Committee, since April 2019, when Weymouth Town Council was formed, the council has operated under a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, with Dorset Council in respect to a number of assets which are pending the finalisation of formal lease agreements. The only assets originally included that have not yet been transferred and which therefore remain under the Memorandum of Understanding, are the beach, the promenade, Greenhill Gardens and the Dalton Close play area. Originally, Greenhill Gardens formed part of the proposed 125-year beach and promenade lease that officers are currently finalising with Dorset Council. However, in 2025, officers from both councils agreed that it would be preferable to exclude Greenhill Gardens from this long-term lease and instead progress with a temporary lease arrangement. This approach was taken because while the Beach and Promenade lease is nearing completion, there remain a number of significant issues at Greenhill Gardens that are more appropriately addressed by Dorset Council prior to the permanent transfer taking place. Otherwise, the responsibility for those matters would pass to Weymouth Town Council. These issues include land slippage, cracking to pathways and walls, and other structural concerns, including the subsidence referenced by the Friends of Greenhill Gardens. Weymouth Town Council is aware of these concerns and continues to engage with Dorset Council regarding the condition of the site. However, as Greenhill Gardens remains under Dorset Council's responsibility at this time, they are best placed to confirm the programme and the timescales for any necessary remedial works. Friends of Greenhill Gardens therefore may wish to seek further assurance directly from Dorset Council regarding anticipated timescales, and Weymouth Town Council will continue to support discussions where appropriate and remains committed to working collaboratively to secure the long-term future of Greenhill Gardens, get the lease agreed as soon as possible, and carry on supporting the great work of our Friends Group.
Thank you very much. I assume we'll be able to send across the written copy of the.
Absolutely, and it will form part of the minutes, Chair.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So, on to item 7, which is the future of Greenhill Rafts. And this is where Deputy Town Clerk Ian Mill will join us.
So sorry, if I may,
Do we actually then go direct to Dorset County Council to get an answer?
Yes, and if I can pop you an email through tomorrow with the best email addresses to use.
Yeah, that'd be so.
Or you could contact your local Dorset Council councillor, but I'll pop everything in an email through tomorrow.
Right, and they'll arrange a meeting with them, then they can.
Yes.
Okay. That's a fair point. Don't feel obliged to stay for the rest of the meeting if you don't particularly want to. Equally, you're very welcome. So over to Ian Mill to introduce the report regarding the future of Greenhill Rafts.
Thank you, Chair. Members will recall that at this meeting in December, the drafts were considered and a decision was to defer, the actual decision is going to be made so that we could just get some additional clarification around insurance provisions and also to gain some additional legal advice which looks at the situation overall, as well as the specifics around the removal of the RNLI and things such as signage and other issues. So we've engaged the services of a top 100 full service UK law firm who are specialists in health and safety. And the advice which we asked them to look at was around the duty owed by the council, the impact of the withdrawal of the RNLI lifeguard cover, the practical deliverability of control measures, the insurance provision, and the defensibility of the available options. And this was based on a full disclosure of all the documents and reports and information that we held. And I think it's just worth noting at this point, it should be noted that the rafts are properly characterised as an artificial offshore attraction rather than a natural thing which just forms part of the sea. So just for background, for a civil claim to be successful, there has to be a duty of care that is owed, there has to be a breach of a duty, and there has to be a loss which is incurred. And the first thing that we asked our legal advisors to determine is whether there is actually a duty of care owed based on current legislation. And just so that people are aware who are watching this, I apologise that this might sound quite legal, but under the Occupiers Liability Act, the council owes a duty to take such care as is reasonable in all circumstances to ensure that lawful visitors are reasonably safe. Under the Occupiers Liability Act 1984, further duty is owed where if a danger exists, the council is aware of it, and then if they're aware of it, they must ensure that all things reasonable are done to protect those who are using the facilities. In addition to that, under the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, Under the Section 3 of the Health and Safety Act, the Work Act 74 and associated regulations, the council must ensure, as far as reasonably practical, that members of the public are not exposed to risks to their health and safety. And these obligations require not only identification of risks, but implementation of reasonable practical control measures. It's worth reminding members at this point that breaching health and safety regulations at work is actually classed as a criminal offence in the UK, from which an individual or company or both can be prosecuted in the criminal courts. And under the 74 Act, penalties include fines and imprisonment up to 2 years, although this can now be increased further under the Health and Safety Offences Act 2008. It's also worth reminding members that there doesn't need to be an incident under the health and safety legislation for it to constitute a criminal offence. It is sufficient that a risk of harm exists and you can be prosecuted under that basis. Unfortunately, for the RAS to be deployed, the council would have to demonstrate that the mitigation measures are in place that reduce the risk to an acceptable level. Having considered all of the evidence, the advice that we have received and have been concluded is that this is not possible. Therefore, on the present evidence, removal of the RAS is not simply the lowest risk option, but the only option which reduces risk to a level that is reasonably defensible in law. Now, I appreciate members that we've been through this over a number of months now. It is not the answer we want to get to. And although that is where we are at this current position, I'd just like to make it clear that we'll never say never, that we won't find an option in future years if there's technologies move on, and there may be further things which come forward which allows us to put them back out again or put something equivalent out again. So that is where we are, members, at the moment.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the report, but also thank you for all the work you put into this over many, many months. And as you say, there's a lot of unwelcome news there, but also we have our parameters we need to work within, and thank you for feeding those back to us briefings recently and also in your report just now. So thank you for that work. Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Ian, thank you very much, and all of your staff. We appreciate the work you've put in. I'd like to make a couple of points on this. Clearly, we're now in 2026 season, and sadly that means it's too late to do anything for 2026. So I don't feel we have, I personally don't feel I have any choice but to vote in favour of recommendation A. However, I would like to consider the removal, I'd like the committee to consider the removal of recommendation B and substitute it with something along the lines of create a cross-party work party to inform and assist the following: funds to be allocated for professional research to be undertaken by a marine safety / leisure expert to find safe provision of a raft or alternative leisure swimming / marine facility. A report to be submitted early in the new year to allow a decision and procurement to take place before the 2027 season.
Do you have that written down in the local?
I do. It's got a scribble on it, but yes.
So just for the benefit of people watching online, we're just going to get it typed up so that everyone in the room is fully aware of the suggestion that's just been made.
Top type, but I don't think we have that.
Just going to pause for a moment just to let the town clerk get that written up. The long one.
Yes, sorry.
And microphone, can you not quick share microphone, please? Oh, yeah, we're already halfway through.
The handwritten stuff, Jane, goes above that stuff, okay?
Was keen that we give this the time so that we're all aware exactly what we're. So, rather than rushing.
Sorry, I'm just seeing the other edition there.
Let's give Councillor Weller a moment just to glance over that, check
Yeah,
his
I think,
formula.
I think that's, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So at this stage, that's not an amendment, it's a proposal.
Well, it's a proposal to remove B with that new,
So replace B with that.
that B, yes.
Okay, so as we've had a proposal, I think that's right to ask for a second then, at this point. Councillor Atkinson, would you like to speak on the item?
Yes, I would like to speak. First thing I'd like to say, I think understanding orders 3.12, I would like it to be a recorded vote on all aspects of this matter, please. And I think second thing I'd like to say, I welcome what the officers have achieved, and I think my understanding is that RAFs can't go in place unless there are lifeguards on duty to gain essential insurance. The insurance risk should then be at an affordable risk so we can afford it. And the harbour master needs to be happy with the situation. I think we have no other course but to the one that Councillor Weller's suggested, because our primary role as councillors, we represent our wards and the people who live in it. There's been a petition over 4,500 people signing, asking for these to be restored. And it's mentioned 13 times in the community survey. So I think we do need to take on more work. I realise that the officers put a lot of effort in, so I think that's the advantage of having a community that working group. And I'd like to remind all of a quote from Winston Churchill: "A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity, an optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty." So I would like positive thinking councillors to join this grouping to see what we can achieve. No guarantee of success, but from little backgrounds that I've seen, that there seem to be some opportunities to explore. So please let's explore them.
Thank you very much. I'm just waiting for the town clerk to through the standing orders.
Struggling to find the standing order, councillor Atkinson, you have it written down, didn't you?
I thought it was 3.12, but any councillor can request a recorded vote. I'm sure, I hope.
Absolutely, no, you're right, it's 3.12. I'm just checking whether that in itself needs a vote. So, if I mention it?
Yeah.
3.12 is unless standing orders provide otherwise, voting on a question shall be by show of hands. At the request of the councillor, the voting on any question shall be recorded so as to show whether each councillor present and voting gave their vote for or against that question. Such a request should be made before moving on to the next item of business on the agenda. So that doesn't require a vote in itself, and on the request of the councillor shall be a recorded vote.
Well, and you shall proceed. Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, first of all, I mean, I'm no one's more in favour of Windsor Church and positive thinking than I am. Can I ask why you want to record a vote?
Because I think it's important for the electorate to see how each councillor voted on this issue, because it's such a matter of enormous local importance.
That's fine. I mean, I plan to vote in favour of what's on the board. What concerns me is, and I will say in this public meeting, is I think seems to be some outside political factors that are motivating certain actions around this subject within the council, and it is a bit concerning. I think some things that have been taking place, they actually have made this a sort of a political issue, which this isn't not a Conservative run council. You could argue it's a Lib Dem run council, but I don't blame the Liberal Democrats for the reason the RAFs have been withdrawn. I think it's a legal issue. But I do think there has become some political factors drawn into it, which I think is a shame. And I will put that on the record. I plan to vote in favour of this. I'm all in favour of optimism. And I think there could be an alternative to the RAFs, or perhaps something come up in the future. But and that is my optimism. But I think in fairness to officers, they have exhausted many avenues for this. So but I will vote in favour of what's on the board.
Very much, councillor Dickinson.
Well, that was the one question I was going to ask, but the other question I'm going to ask, when funds to be allocated, yet again, you know, it's that word funds. You know, what kind of money are we talking about? Hasn't this been exhaustive enough?
Thank you very much. Would you like to speak at this stage? Hello?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Members will recall when this first kicked off, I think I was the first one to voice my disappointment on behalf of the residents. And I do agree with Councillor O'Leary that it has become almost a political football match with our white knight of an MP hoping to ride his steed and then save the RAFs and tone him out himself, which unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I would love nothing more, hasn't been able to happen under current legislations and the mitigations that we are able to provide. I would support the recommendation, but I am very concerned that actually we will just be spending more money on a situation that is not fixable. And I think that's the reality here. I think our officers, and I've been one to challenge them, and they know that. And I think I've upset some of them whilst I've challenged it. And I've apologised for such, but I will always challenge. But I think they've done everything within the expertise of this council and the harbour master to look at options for reinstating this. All of our officers want to see this back out there. I know some of them use it themselves. We all want to see it back out there. I'm just concerned around such a proposal this evening. I would actually say we probably need the cost factor before taking such consideration forward. And that does lead to, we have set a budget already for this year. We are in the new financial year. Can the town clerk or deputy town clerk please advise where such funds may be coming from and what services may be impacted by funding this now instead?
Question?
I would defer to the RFO from council.
It would be dependent on identifying funds which are unallocated at some stage. We haven't closed down the final account, so we can't sort of determine if that's actually they would be there or not. But there isn't any funds within the actual budget itself. Hasn't been unallocated, so it would need to be looked at through the reserves, and that would be depending on where those savings are made. It may impact on other priorities which exceed market against.
Thank you. Got any supplementary to that?
I'm happy, I'm happy to just sort of respond at the end, if that's all right with you, Chairman, and defer to Helen.
Thank you very much, Councillor Todd.
Two things. First of all, are we allowed to know how much the very good lawyer we use to advise us cost? And how much money has been already been spent on this issue? Before we then respond to this. I would agree to vote for what's up there. But I would say that I'm aware that it is money. And would this have to go to the finance committee? Would we going to then allocate money?
Both very good questions. Let's stand up.
Under commercial sensitivity, obviously we can't give the exact amounts, but as an estimate, I would say that so far we've probably incurred the cost getting close to £10,000 as part of this process. I would just sort of, remind members that any actions or solutions may have significant costs attached to them as well. Primarily around you are unable to leave any feature out in the sea unless it's being attended full time, so there'll be significant costs about bringing things in and out. It's just part of the background information which we previously considered.
There was a second element as well about if it goes through as written on the board with the funding allocation, which at the moment we don't have a figure for the council talked to you asking, would that go through finance and governance? Would that be the route that would need to take?
It would.
Getting nods from the town clerk and deputy town clerk. So that would be the future part of this. If I may at this point, my concern is not the positivity and all of those things. My concern is I'm a bit wobbly on funds to be allocated. Maybe if Councillor Weller could maybe respond to this.
The whole point, Chairman, of to create a cross-party work party to inform and assist was very much that cross-party working would explore exactly how much this would cost, with a minimum of expense on that explore and, inform and assist for a report to come to F&G with as much information as possible for F&G at a minimum expense at that point, then giving costings on what A, B and C might be. It might be that at the end of that research, the result of that report is that despite our very best efforts and using every imaginative ploy we could, there is no solution. But our residents, and we know that nearly 5,000 of them have taken the trouble, and we know how hard it is for people to actually get out and sign things. Nearly 5,000 of them have signed a petition saying they want them back. We can demonstrate to them that we have listened and we've done our very best, and despite that, it has not been possible. So that's the point of this. The end result may be exactly as it is today. I desperately hope it's not, but I'd like us to give it just a last chance on that. And if you'll allow me, Chairman, I think the digs at our current MP and the political nature are a little unfair. I would suggest that whoever was our MP from whatever party, whether we supported that party or not, whoever was our MP at the moment would have said, I'm sorry this is happening. I will do my best to assist, and those party members who were in his group would have been badgering him to stand up and make those points, having said he would, and to support us and the council. He facilitated a meeting with officers, to which you as chairman of the ENS were invited, to which members of his own group were invited, because we are the ones primarily who have been nagging him day and night for weeks. And at the end of the day, whilst he accounts to every single one of us in the constituency, it's we who have him on a WhatsApp group and on a phone group and everything else, and have no respect for what time of day we text them and say, so what are you doing? So I think it's unfair to say, St. Lloyd and all those things. It's unworthy of you all, because you are better than that. And I will say that, that sounds hectoring, that sounds like a mum talking to you, and I do apologise for that. But he was doing his best for us all, not for the Labour Party. I assure you.
That we get back to the matter in hand. Going back to the concept of the funding, etc. Would there be a way to amend this so that we take out allocated and replace it with will be considered?
Seek to allocate?
will consider
Allocation?
yeah, as a potential option. My point being, I don't think how was the phrase used, the working party, it should be predetermined that funds will be given, and that, as you suggested, would come out to conversation. Because at this stage, I just feel a bit concerned about funds in general and the lack of figure put to that. So if we change it to funds to be considered for, there you go, one word change. You still happy to propose it in that form? Still happy to second?
Yes, particularly if the working group can start with that, because that doesn't involve any funds.
That's what I
Sorry, and to go back off to this subject, the previous, it wasn't a criticism of the MP I was levelling, Councillor Hope. Mine was the fact that I think that we have to remember with all these issues they are at the end of the day a ward issue. While I'm saying Councillor Atkinson was quite as the ward member, Councillor Orwell should have primarily been there as well. I don't see why MPs are picking people in regards to what party membership they are on something that should not be a political issue, but should be a ward issue. That's all I was saying.
Thank you. I think we'll leave that point there. I think both sides have been shared. So we've got where we've got a second note. So just for clarity, up on the board, you can see that the original recommendation B has now been struck out. In the red text on the board, we have the proposal. So just a few minor amendments being made. So we now have a B and a C. So it reads to create, A, to not redeploy the RAS for the 2026 season. That was as originally shown on the report for this evening. And we now have to create a cross-party work party to inform and assist the following.
Sorry.
As amendments happening live, little typos and things being sorted out, so just bear with me. Fantastic. So we've now got B, I'll start that section again. To create a cross-party work party to inform and assist the following. So the first point would be funds to be considered for professional research to be undertaken by a marine safety or leisure expert to find a safe provision of a raft or alternative leisure, swimming or marine facility. And then the second section of recommendation B now would be a report to be submitted early in the new year to allow a decision and procurement to take place for the 2027 season. Getting a nod from the proposer and seconder. Is there anyone else who'd like to discuss this at this point? Councillor Toft.
May I ask Councillor Weller if after marine facility it could be Smash Garden?
Well, that will encompass it. I think I think we need to be really open-minded about this.
Lido.
If we're really open-minded, Councillor Toft,
Yes.
I just think we need to use our imaginations now.
If I may on that, I think the mixed marine facility is broader and therefore leaves it to the experts to come up with different options. So on that point, Councillor Hope.
Can I just ask another question of officers, since we're now speaking to a new recommendation amended? Can I just have clarity, because again, in the last challenge when we had this meeting back in December, we were very both were around the need of exploring more opportunities. And I under the impression, and Councillor Atkinson actually gave details of a marine insurer that was unable to give really any advice in the situation that could possibly help it. So has this activity actually already happened? I'm very cautious that, as members are aware, and probably the larger public, we are about to lose a member of SLT, and we are going to be really having to focus when our officers' attention is. And I'm just concerned about more attention on really something is, and it's disappointing to say, not going to happen. If the activity hasn't already happened, but I take advice there from Van Clark.
So the thing around the marine insurance was whether there was room that we could get specialist insurance to replace what Shaw had previously provided with significant liability coverage. What I would say is we haven't been able to get any positive out of that just by trying. But that in itself, I keep saying that insurance is not the magic wand. It's just have something in place to transfer the financial risk should a claim be brought against us. It doesn't in itself reduce the risk or change anything to do with the legal side of stuff.
And second of all, Chair, if I may just follow up with that, and I do recall when this first broke and we looked into this, and again, I was sending suggestions to officers around the councils and private operators. A lot of them are finding themselves in a similar situation now and are having to withdraw their rafts, and private operators are basically struggling to operate as well because of the risk involved in actually assuring the risks. Now it's slightly different. There are tickets of the event that have marshals on the water, but it does feel like we're going round in circles, and I'm one again that, you know, I'm happy to support this if there are other members that really want to keep going on this, but I'm concerned about officer time on this, and you know, I don't want to be a defeatist, but it does seem like actually there is no options to continue in the mindset we have unless a voluntary organisation has, which was put out in the previous papers, or another operative come forward with a solution that they could do. There is no way that a council could do this, and I'm pretty sure that that was in the last set of papers that came to us before we came forward. So I am just concerned about spending more public purse and more of our officers' time on something that actually isn't going to happen. And again, really the answer to that question really decides how I vote this evening.
All I would say is, and obviously previous committee meetings, a number of options have been already looked at. I think they've been well documented and formed part of the report. And there haven't been any positive ways that we could replace the facility. But as far as officers are concerned, we sort of tried to explore every option that we felt was available.
You'd like to come back?
If I could, thank you, Chair. What I would say is, and excuse me for using what I believe is a George Bushism, but we don't know what we don't know. There may be unknown unknowns. So although we as a senior leadership team and working with other staff members, we have looked at what all other councils across the UK are doing, what private operators across the UK are doing. We have looked at operators in France and we've looked at operators in Germany. However, myself and Ian would not put ourselves forward as experts in the marine leisure industry. And it may well be that there could be an answer out there. We've examined everything we can find from internet searches, talking to experts that we have found, but I would never want to say categorically that we have found every option and considered every option. So it might be, I would be extremely surprised if anything came forward that we had not found in our extensive months and months of research and work on this. However, I cannot categorically say to you that there is not an alternative Lido inflatable. I don't know what I don't know, and I'm happy consulting experts, but we will need to get some quotes around that to enable to inform you exactly the level of cost you will be looking at for this expert.
And I think with the recommendation B that's up there, I think in the element where it says provision of a raft or alternative leisure swimming marine facility is a key bit there. And we've got to be realistic with our members that there have been months and months of work gone into this about the raft. And we need to start with that being clear and transparent, and that this may involve something that isn't in the end, and that is what this will explore. I think that's well worded within what's ended up on the screen. There's actually Councillor Dickinson first, and I'll come to you after Councillor.
No, I just wanted to say, I mean, by listening to all of this, you agreed with me about the funds, which was my primary concern to start with. But also as well, and it pains me to say this, I totally and utterly agree with councillor Ryan. He is spot on. And this is happening more and more and it's getting very worrying.
Must keep us up there.
Oh, no.
Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think the critical point here is that we focused, of course, we have focused very much on rafts and the replacement effectively of like with like. And what I'm asking is for us to think more broadly on that, think with a greater imagination. It may be, and it very likely is, that rafts are no longer a viable proposition, that the risks are too great and so on. And I do not overlook for one moment the amount of work that our officers have done, because it has been enormous and thorough and with great care, and I think we all appreciate that. What I'm asking for here, and I do accept that it's dragging it on, what I'm asking for is that we just spend a little more time looking at if there are some more imaginative solutions out there for providing, because we've lost the pedalo, we've lost the raft. Our great feature is the sea, the water in the bay. We're desperate for our young people to get out and take exercise on one of our great facilities, which is our beautiful, safe water. If there's some really exciting alternative that we can provide safely and within our insurance budgets and everything else, let's look and see. It may be that it comes back that nice try, but no chance. And then we have to accept it. And I'd like to suggest we go to the vote after.
Absolutely, it's just picking up on a point from what you just said, over to the town clerk.
Thank you, Chairman. I think we'll note that on the forward plan, there is provision for a report coming forward in the autumn for going out to tender for a replacement something for the pedalos, so some sort of watercraft, water-based activity. And members will need to be extremely mindful not to conflate or muddy the waters, I was going to say, but I was desperately trying to avoid a water-based analogy there. But we'll need to be very careful that this doesn't become one huge issue when we are already moving forward with the watercraft. So I think if this centres solely on the sort of the static area where the rafts were, then that boundary needs to be respected.
Thank you very much, and I agree. I feel it is time to go to the vote, and there's been lots of discussion over many months on this one.
Just a reminder that this is
Yeah.
Just after a point of clarity on that recorded vote, the recorded vote was actually on substantive. Substantive is now being amended with the word changing for the funding. Does a new recorded vote have to be requested understanding all these, or will that carry over?
That will carry over because the text in red was the initial recommendation, because it was the initial resolution proposal, and it was amended by the proposer, so it counts as the same one. Had it been a proposed amendment to, then that would indeed have been the case, but I'm content that from a legal perspective that you can continue with this vote on a recorded basis. And if you would like me to read the names out, Chair, I will be more than happy to.
Yeah, we can do that. So I think my sense of the room is that we'll do this as A and B together. So everyone's been violently shaking their head at me. So I think we'll go with A and B on block. So
as is tradition, we'll take this alphabetically, Chair. If members, when I call your name, if you could clearly say for, against or abstaining, and we will tally those up. So we will start with Councillor Atkinson.
For.
Councillor Bell.
For.
Councillor Dickinson.
For.
Councillor Harmsworth.
For.
Councillor Hayter.
For.
Councillor Hope.
For.
Councillor O'Leary.
For.
Councillor Toft. And Councillor Weller.
For.
That is unanimous, Chair, thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much to the Deputy Town Clerk for presenting that then. So on to item 8, which is the Promenade TRO, the Traffic Regulation Order. This is being introduced by Will Holmes.
Thank you, Chair. This report presents an update on the proposed traffic regulation order PID for the promenade, alongside options for managing unauthorised parking in this area. Officers have been working closely with Dorset Council to explore both a full TRO and a potential temporary solution. However, due to the promenade largely comprising of privately owned land rather than adopted highway, Dorset Council has advised that the use of the TRO powers in this location would not be practical or effective. Alternative options, including the use of private parking enforcement, have also been considered, but were not deemed suitable due to their limited legal powers and reliance on contractual enforcement. Since the original proposal, officers have instead focused on targeted operational measures such as installing bollards in problem areas, which have already proven effective in reducing unauthorised parking and improving pedestrian safety. The report therefore recommends continuing with this flexible business as usual approach, allowing officers to respond to issues as they arise within existing budgets while monitoring the situation and reporting back to the committee if required. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Will. So this related originally to a PID submitted in May 2023. So this is something that's been sort of on the officers' list for quite some time, and it's important, I think, that we discuss this and move forward with it. So on that basis, is there anyone that would like to kick off the discussion this evening? This one.
Move the recommendation.
Okay, sorry, can you say that again for the record?
Sorry, I'd like to move the recommendation.
So that's Councillor Weller is proposing this one. I'll second it. Okay, Councillor Atkinson is seconding. So this is, I'll just read this for clarity, especially for those watching and recording. So this recommendation as written on the report is that the committee does not proceed with the PID, which is the project initiation document, as I said, submitted in 2023, for a full traffic regulation order, lots of abbreviations in this one, along the promenade, and agrees to officers using a business as usual approach to manage unauthorised parking within existing budgets, working in partnership with Dorset Council. We've had a proposal, we've had a seconder. Is anyone that would like to comment? Not seeing any indication, so we'll go straight to the vote, and if that's the case, so all those in favour? And that is unanimous. Well, so there we are, because we now move on to item 9, free toilet access for events for the 2026 season. So, Will.
Thank you, Chair. This report presents the committee to choose which events will benefit from free access to paid entry public toilet facilities during 2026. The free toilet access policy introduced in 2025 was designed to support local events and community activities by allowing the council to waive charges at selected fees for up to 6 days each year. This approach helps to improve accessibility, reduce barriers for event organisers, and enhance the overall experience during key events. Following an open application process, several requests have been received from eligible organisations, including community and non-for-profit events. The recommendation is that the committee select up to 6 appropriate dates, after which officers will implement the agreed arrangements in line with the policy. Thank you.
Councillor Hope, thank you all, by the way.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Will, for the report, and thank you to the events team for putting the work out there to make sure that event organisers knew that this policy existed and the opportunity was there this year. Just one question, well, 2 questions. One's a cheeky one. Appendix X, I couldn't find it.
Apologies, that's an error on the agenda.
But the next one was more of a serious comment, and that is Fair and Square. I see they've applied for 1-day usage on the 23rd of the 5th, 26th. I understand it's a 2-day event. Is that an omission from the application, or did they only apply for 1 day?
So in the elusive appendix X, which was included in the agenda pack and is available on the website, Fair and Square, it's up on the screen at the moment, is listed for the 23rd and the 24th. However, I would defer to Will on the whether the report is asking for both days or whether it's just one.
Yeah, so the report should have been both days, but that's not.
Alright, and second question, if I may, Chair. Cycling Without Age, I think is a fantastic charity that does great work in our community. I presume that the fact the clientele they're working with, a lot of their clients would already have access to radar keys, therefore getting the access. So this would be more around their volunteers that are cycling, having access to the toilets. And I'm just wondering if committee agreed to go with them, bearing in mind they are asking for 360 days, how many hours a year in there. That's out of policy, but how logistically would that work? Would we look at issuing their volunteers radar keys, or how would that work?
Yeah, we can do two options with that. We can either issue them a radar key. Radar keys are quite easy to get nowadays. Or what we can do is we can give them one of our sort of master keys that we've got lots covered for, and we would just do a small terms and conditions if they were to lose it or misuse it.
Thank you very much.
Would anyone else like to comment? Okay, if I may then, just sort of going back to the point Councillor Hope just raised there. Does Cycling Without Age, I think the others all fit very neatly within the policy. Cycling Without Age one kind of seems like a separate issue. Now, given that we don't necessarily have to deal with all 6 available dates today, now are we counting this as 4 dates now, Will, just for kick-off question, little easy one? If we have the Wednesday 10, the Folk Festival, and then Fair and Square on 2 days.
Yeah, Folk Festival is 2 days as
Yeah,
well.
so, okay, so we're up to the 5. So this is 5 days we're looking at for those 3 events, leaving us 1 spare. It's noted in the report. If we're unable to allocate all 6 available dates this time, then any remaining dates can be held for future events. Well, is it more feasible for that conversation with Cycling Without Age to be sort of separate from this report with guidance given about disability access, etc.? Is that the better way for that to proceed?
Yes.
In terms of policy?
Yeah, I would say the conversation with Cycling Without Age would be separate from this, and we can go down the route of the radar keys with them having access to everything. They would be able to use the facilities at every single toilet block with a radar key.
Thank you very much. So on that basis and noting that officers are aware of that request, I think at the moment, because the recommendation calls for us to select the days, I believe, just double checking myself here. So the recommendation from officers doesn't stipulate what we need to accept or go with here. We've now had that conversation about Cycling Without Age kind of being a separate issue to be dealt with by the officers and a positive outcome to be reached there. We've got 5 days for the Weymouth 10, 1 day for the Weymouth 10, 2 days for the Folk Festival, and 2 days for the Fair and Square, 5 of the 6 from within the policy. I'd like to just propose that we accept those as the free toilet days moving forward for 2026. And that would leave us with 1 day remaining. And I presume the application process remains open. So I'm asking Will at this stage, would that be open as an option for further groups to apply for?
Yeah, so I believe currently at the moment it's not up on the website or on our social media. However, I can speak to the communications team and have it as sort of an open application on our website, and then when we get a couple of events that apply, I could then either bring it back as an item or an information item.
Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, I'm proposing that we accept Weymouth 10, Wessex Folk, and Fair and Square as written on, well, not as written on the report, with the double days for the Folk Festival and double day for the Fair and the Square. Is there anyone willing to second that? Councillor Hope, I think you just snuck it there, my nose. So any further comments on this one? Okay, in which case we'll move to the vote. Are you clear on?
Absolutely,
Perfect.
I've amended the report, screen share with the additional days, but I haven't set it in done.
Thank you very much. Okay, all those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you, Will. Moving on then to, yes, there we are. We are moving on to item 11. And Will is going to introduce this one. So this is the free parking dates for 2026.
Thank you, Chair. This report presents proposals for the allocation of free parking days in Dorset Council's car parks for the 2026 year in support of local events and activities. Under Dorset Council's free parking policy, town councils are permitted to nominate a number of days each year where parking charges can be waived to help increase footfall, support local businesses and encourage participants in events. This includes 4 discretionary days in addition to nationally recognised dates such as Small Business Saturday and selected weekday in December. An open application process has been undertaken, resulting in a number of events requests. These have been reviewed and commercial events have been removed in line with policy guidance. Members are therefore asked to consider which of the remaining events will provide the greatest benefit to the town, particularly in terms of visitor numbers and economic impact. The recommendation is for the committee to approve Armed Forces Weekend, Remembrance Sunday, choose 2 additional event dates and a December weekday, with the final selection to be submitted to Dorset Council for approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we've had the report. Thank you for putting that together. Obviously, this is one that comes up annually and it's a really important one, very much supports the community. So is there anyone that would like to start the discussion about further selections? A very quiet evening at this rate. So just to clarify where we are with the recommendation, just so we're fully aware of what we're actually choosing. So the recommendation is that we select the Armed Forces Weekend and Remembrance Sunday, which obviously we've done previously, along with 22nd December and an extra weekday in December, as stipulated in the report. So we're essentially looking to choose 2 additional days. Is that correct, Will? Just give me a nod. Yeah, so we're after 2 additional days to then send forward for this. We've got quite a hefty list. So we're going to need some form of discussion here. So if anyone would like to start us off.
Yeah, because obviously, well into the armed forces, it says there's Saturday, the 20th of June, the 1940s summer fete. Now, is that fete spelled wrong or?
FET.
I think that is what we will,
Is that, you know, right, you know, we either celebrate it or. Surely that should be one really, you know, because then that's the whole weekend for people that are coming down. It seems logical. If it's just a fete as
Okay.
opposed to a fete.
So on the basis of filling out that weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, yep, fair point. Councillor Weller, did you indicate?
No.
Oh, sorry, I thought you had. Councillor Hope.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this time last year, we did have a discussion, actually, as a council, we'd be probably more minded to try and support more community organisations than probably inward approach. And I think part of the recommendation last year, or suggested during the debate, is actually for the Armed Forces Weekend. You know, was it be possible for the vehicles to form up outside on Lodmore, meaning that we wouldn't need to use the car park at Lodmore for that formation time, and then pay the small fee, which I say small fee, which is a small fee for us as a council compared to a community organisation, the Pavilion Forecourt, so that actually that could free up an extra day that we could give to a community organisation. And I'm just wondering if such activity ever happened, because it's not like that day we're offering visitors free parking. It's logistical requirements of where the tanks and the military vehicles congregate before the procession route and then park for display afterwards. So they could possibly use the grass area a lot more to congregate. I mean, they wouldn't need a lot more car park, and then we could pay Dorset Council for the forecourt because we can afford it more than potentially beach walkies or the friends, I presume it's friends of Redhill Gardens that are doing the 1940s fete. And I'm just wondering, did that activity ever happen, that investigation into costs?
Yes, it did. So I spoke to the Green Spaces team, and when I said tanks and big vehicles on Lodmore, they said some words I'm not going to repeat. So that was completely out the window. And with Lodmore, because of the type of vehicles we have, does kind of need to be on pavement. We also need the rear pavilion car park, because that's where a lot of the veterans who are parading, they park there, walk up to the cenotaph, and then once they've finished in the pavilion after all the displays and stuff, they're right next to their cars. So it's to have both the pavilion forecourt and the rear.
That's my question, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Obviously have one date to look forward. I think we're at the stage of putting forward a proposal yet, but the 1940s fate needs spelling change on the appendix as well. So yeah, 1940s summer fete is being held by Friends of Radipole Park and Gardens. It links in very clearly with the rest of the armed forces weekend. So for me, I completely see the logic, and obviously with my Dorset hat on, I represent Radipole, I'm very supportive of that one. And also I think it's a good use of the Swanley car park. And also I like the fact that it would potentially engage people with our park area at Radipole.
Yeah.
As opposed to everything being at Hope Square and on the seafront. I quite like the idea that it's spread out slightly. So I feel quite supportive of that one. We do, so that's one that we've got two councillors clearly feeling supportive of. We're not hearing much from others. We do need to get another day selected here. So are there any others that leap out at people as being, well, Councillor O'Leary?
I'd like to propose Big Beach Walkies because it's more out of season as well and spreads out a bit further.
Yeah, so just let me read through that again. So pavilion car parks, volunteer-led walk. That's the start of the restrictions on the 1st of May. Family of fun event. I mean, there's a lot of value in that, isn't there? And I take a point of shoulders.
As a dog.
You like a dog.
So we've had two. We've had two receive a positive input. Are there any others? That's all.
Sorry, just on the big beach
Yeah.
walkies, bearing in mind it's this weekend.
Yeah.
Are we as a town going to get the best bang from this opportunity of a free car park? How are they going to publicise it in 3 days for a 1 hour beach walk?
Yeah, that's true.
It's 3 days time. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it fits, and
No,
whether or not we actually need to be
next year maybe.
bring this, shift the order when this application comes every year, so that actually we get the full 12-month calendar year or the financial year. And maybe do this activity in January, I think, next year. Probably so that these organisations that are in the shoulder month, which is the ones we want, because we want people here in the shoulder months to support our businesses in the town, have a better opportunity of applying.
Councillor O'Leary.
I'd like to withdraw my proposal for Big Beach Walkies and suggest perhaps Weymouth Beach, Weymouth Bay Dash. Sorry.
Do you want to explain your thinking on that one?
No, I think it's a different event to allow to use the 3 day for as well, and to get something new as well.
Yeah, just a quick question on that one. On Appendix A, it doesn't say which car park, I don't think.
So
It says-
Pavilion and Pavilion Forecourt.
No, not the version I'm looking at, but.
It doesn't need the actual report meter.
Okay, all right, the appendix, it wasn't noted. So if we know which car parks that's about, then, which is good, so we've got some clarity. Yeah, I think there's value in that, isn't there? So. In the absence of a full-on discussion here, which doesn't seem to be forthcoming, Councillor Dickinson.
I'd like to perhaps say Weymouth Beach Motocross might be.
Absolutely got.
How was it?
Yeah.
Has it?
No.
We're going to do that.
No.
We did last year, didn't we?
Oh, sorry, I'm
The
reading
two
it
in the-
standard, sorry, I'd like to,
2025, yeah.
Could we light up the ones that have been approved, so we.
I thought meet motocross was similar to the other ones, where we should have agreed on
We
that.
gave it to beach mode, can we colour the ones that have been approved?
Yeah, that's a
But
shame.
nothing's been approved at this stage,
Okay.
councillor.
Oh, right, sorry.
Sorry,
It is on,
We're going to do beach mode tomorrow, it's not.
it's not,
Sorry, it's coloured on here.
it's coloured on here,
Yeah.
but for some reason, oh, hello. Well, I've accidentally zoomed in now.
Yeah, so I,
Sorry, councillor, there we go for it.
the third time there, so I've had to withdraw.
Yeah,
But when I get married, it's not as difficult. Weymouth Beach Motocross, suggest, because it is in the shoulder map, it's the 11th of October. Yeah, I know, but I thought they'd already been agreed, I was.
You can say.
Oh,
so let's see if we can get it
Great.
on.
11th of October,
Are we,
I won't be there myself, but Weymouth Beach Motocross twenty
are we
26.
taking out the Weymouth Lane Dash?
Yes. Apologies to that. It's this one, it's in the shoulderman's. There's lovely emissions.
Okay, and that
Town
would
against
be our
the
sixth
on beach
one.
mode.
Is there any other option? Oh, councillor Toft.
Don't we normally do the Christmas lights, which when are we working on the big ones this year?
Small business, that small business day.
Yeah, that's in the evening. Guys, can we keep it to one voice, because I'm getting lost here. Will,
Yeah, sorry, councillor Well is correct, that that's the small business Saturday. We are working with the bid, same as last year, so that is one of the automatic ones.
Yeah.
Automatic one, that's the one.
so we're there then, aren't
Well,
we?
the Christmas lights switch on.
Yeah.
we're just looking for a bit of clarity here.
Business Saturdays and Thursdays.
Yeah,
That's the one.
Christmas lights switch on is a different day to small
Yeah.
business.
Small business Saturday, your report is down as the 5th of December.
It says first of December, isn't it?
Guys, let's just give Will a chance. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, it does.
So
Right, well,
that's another curveball in here.
Yeah.
So we would have, if I'm right, Will, please correct me if I'm not.
Yeah.
So the small business Saturday is 5th of December. There'll be another day, a weekday in December we have to do. So
Yeah.
that's two of them.
Yeah.
Then got Armed Forces weekend and Remembrance Service and Parades that we're strongly pushing. I don't think there's much argument against that. Two others we need. And the quandary we've got is we've got 40s Fate has received support, Beach Motocross has received support, and Christmas Lights Switch on event has received support. We have that one in yellow as well, Christmas Lights, right?
Who was it, who?
Yeah, I think everyone else would just have made an assumption it was that's the word.
Would Christmas lights switch on, which is a different day to small business because of the way the calendar's worked, it's a different day this year. Would that not be supported by bid anyway? Could we defer that last one and just check whether bid are supporting Christmas lights switch on, because if they are, or unless you've got the
Not in
answer,
terms of car parking, no,
they're not, okay.
because they would need to pay for that. Because it's the town council that gets offered the 3 days, not the.
Yeah, I just wondered whether, whether they were, okay, fine.
Councillor,
Thank you very much. I'm treading very carefully because of that non-pecuniary interest earlier. I obviously support motocross. Because logistically, the event can't happen without the car parks. It's not free parking for spectators because they will promote alternative methods of green travel as alternative as well as other car parks. I do side again with Councillor Toft this evening on the Christmas light switch on. I think it's a whole town event, which is very well supported with the full days of activities, especially with the bid. I always try and get the Guinness record. But I probably should, for clarity, also declare a non-pecuniary interest there because the Lions are the charity partner of choice for the bid on that event. So it's just a point of clarity further to this agenda item.
can I just come in one? Not go down very well in my local patch, but the summer fete being run by Radical Park and Gardens, friends of Radical Park and Gardens. Presumably on that day, they would still have use of the car park by the cafe, which is already fully car park. We've also got the car park by the tennis club. So as much as I'm sure I will now receive some emails of disappointment, I think maybe that's the one that comes out, even though it's fantastic event and linked in the Armed Forces Day, or Armed Forces Weekend, I should say. I think, given the discussion that's gone on and the logic that's been applied of maximising use of the car parks and benefit when the 1940s summer fete already has availability of some free parking. I think it's hard to argue for that one, as much as I would love to. So I think we've come to a position where we have quite a clear leaning towards the motocross and the Christmas lights switch on.
There is a proposal for them.
Yep. So who had made that proposal? Remind me, sorry.
Me.
Would you like to make that as a proposal?
Yes.
Yep, so those 2 days. We'll just make them clear on the screen. Apologies to my friends at Radical Park and Gardens. Yep. So we were taking summer fete out.
We are taking some of it.
Are we?
I didn't think that was what councillor Dickinson.
They
Or
usually take
support.
the summer fete to have Christmas,
Do we have to?
or you saying have Christmas?
No, I can see that, I mean, I don't want to, I'm with like you, I don't want to take the summer fete out, but I can see the logic, so. Yeah,
So just for clarity, would you like to go over what your proposal is? Just so it's
yeah,
clear for
I
the
think
board?
what you're saying is absolutely right, I stick with Weymouth Beach Motocross and the Weymouth Christmas light.
Plus the already declared.
Edge, what?
I'm happy to second. The absence of anyone else shoving their hand up.
The proposal for those 4 was. Who, if you're seconding, who's the proposer?
Me.
Dickinson. Is there anyone else who'd like to further discuss this item? That was good discussion. Fully round all the options there. So all those in favour? Actually, not quite. So that is any against? And any abstentions? One of these abstentions. You weren't, what before thought was.
Yeah.
Right. So that is carried, and thank you for the good debate on that one, especially with everyone being very community spirited and thinking about the best options available. And apologies to those that didn't get it, because there's lots of very, very worthy events being put on across the community, which is great. So, well, again, we are going to move on to item 11, which is the beach lockers.
Thank you, Chair. This report presents a proposal to introduce beach day storage lockers on the promenade through a commercial partnership with Lockers Limited. The aim of the proposal is to enhance the visitor experience by providing secure, convenient storage for personal belongings, allowing residents and visitors to make better use of the beach and seafront. The scheme is based on a commercial installation and revenue share model, meaning there is no upfront capital cost to the council. Instead, the council will provide a suitable location and power supply, while Lockers Limited will take responsibility for installation, operation, maintenance, and customer management. The lockers will be available in a range of sizes, accessible via a smartphone-based system, and designed to be affordable and easy to use. The proposal also includes safeguards to address previous misuse with the coin return lockers that were on the seafront before. There will be monitoring and enforcement measures in place, and there is more detailed information within the appendix, including the financial proposal. The recommendation is that members approve the proposal for officers to go ahead to deliver the new facility alongside an income stream for the council. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could just pose a question, just so we're discussing it fully, can you just go through the location more fully and the benefits of that in terms of cameras itself?
Yep, sure. So the first location that we proposed to them is at the beach office on the road side of the beach office. We've got roughly 4 meters of wall there that would work very well for lockers. It will be a good location because people coming off of buses will be able to see them visibly. The lockers themselves will have cameras that can be monitored by the company, and also the beach office is covered in a lot of cameras, especially in that area.
Thank you, and thank you for this report, and I believe Ben was involved as well. You've obviously introducing them this evening. I think it's excellent. I think it's another it's another facility, it's another income stream that supports our other work through our town. So I feel very, very positive about this one myself. Is there anyone that would like to discuss this one? Councillor Atkinson?
I agree with you what you said about being supportive, but could you give me a bit more information about how lockers company will deter drug dealing? Because that is obviously a concern along the estimate. So you can talk about how that will be stopped.
Yeah, so that was our first question to them, because we did previously have problems with the coin return lockers that we had. How they run their scheme is that for you to use the locker, you are required to put your name in, your email address and your phone number. So a lot more information needs to go in rather than just somebody pound in. If we notice anything suspicious, or there's frequently the same person coming at the same time, we can contact lockers and they can completely close that locker, so that person can't get in, and then we can call the police, and then it can be opened that way. The other sort of mechanism is that you can only get into the locker with the link that goes through onto your phone. So I can't send you my link for you to go pick your drugs up at the lockers.
Carrollton sources.
Yeah. It's, yeah, they've got these in a lot of other places, and we can speak to them directly, and they can shut the lockers down so they cannot get in at all. Hopefully that answers the question.
Perhaps that could be reviewed after a while to see how well it's working. But that, there is a drug dealing going on. That's my own concern.
Well, it sounds to me, and I asked similar questions when we spoke about this prior to the meeting, our pre-meet. It sounds to me as it's an ongoing process. And it's something that I know you're very much aware of, and we spoke about at great length prior to it, but yeah, absolutely. Councillor Hope?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think sounds like a reasonable opportunity to support. I've just got some actual questions on how they've gauged their figures and what they vision success like. Although they are visible when you come off the bus, you can see that they're there. You think actually they're around, are they really in the right location? Because you're coming off the beach to go and get all your belongings. Seems a way round to go up or across the prom, wrapped into town to get everything. I don't know how practical they will be to use, but again, there's minimal, there's no really risk to us trying this. And I would have said, when I thought about this, I thought, oh, this is a brilliant idea. If I go to the family, beach with the family, and we all want to go down to the water, so I don't leave my phone and everything on the beach, but actually I'm going to have to leave my phone on the beach because I need to get QR code to go my locker again. So it doesn't seem like everything's been thought out, whether or not there is an opportunity for a token, I don't know. Then you're back in that situation with someone you can get someone else the QR code to click.
Yeah.
I think it's a good opportunity, income generation, no risk to the council, but I think there may be some further thought process on actually how logistically it would work.
Yeah, completely see that point. And I believe what you can do within it is once you're logged into your locker, and if you're going to leave your phone in the locker, you can create a PIN, and then on the screen the lockers look very similar to how like the return parcel lockers are at the moment, where you go and you scan a code or you put a code in. They started with that and then they've gone to this. So yes, it's possible to open it in a slightly different way.
So that then, sorry, Chair, for you, opens up the thing if I can use a PIN, feel like I have a PIN on the drug deal. Should it be biometrics? Because then your fingerprint opens your locker to get your phone and your belongings, and your fingerprint isn't transferable to something you're dealing to. It just squishes the defence that was given to Councillor Atkins around how we're going to mitigate drug dealing. That's all.
On that, though, we have also, there's a range of mitigations that don't count. So it's imperfect, as many things are, but there are multiple.
They don't care. They don't care if they're on camera. They do it. So anyway, we won't get into that today.
Councillor Toff, you indicated.
Firstly, well, I think it's a no-brainer because everything brings income in, and I think it's great. Can I ask, just out, because I'm curious, did they come to us and say we'd like to put some art lockers, or were we actively seeking lockers? I've just wondered how we've arrived at this point. And the other thing was and I don't know, I can't recall the exact details, but we had the lockers for the swimmers further along, and are they still in place, or can they be replaced by do they still work, and are they successful, or you know, is this an option to replace them with a better system?
So the lockers for the swimmers up the rock groin, got vandalised. They were damaged within a couple of months. With these lockers, it requires power, and up at the rock groin area, we don't have any direct power that we would be able to put this in. It's something that could potentially be part of the infrastructure group that is going on at the moment, because they'll be looking at a lot of aspects of the prom, but not something that we can just put in straight away, unfortunately.
Thank you, councillor Weller.
I only was going to say that, you know, if drug dealers want to use these facilities, they will find a way, no matter how innovative we are to prevent that. The lockers they were popular, they were successful. It was what we always intended with this sort of Superloo facility here. And I think it's great that you found another provider. And I'm absolutely in favour. But yeah, and I'll take on board what because I'm on that other group. I've just written a note, councillor Toft, to see what can be done. Already thinking about something. But yeah, drug dealers will, if they want to, they'll find a way. Great.
Thank you very much. Okay, very good discussion. I think I'll kick off with a proposal. So I'll propose the recommendation as written in the report. Is there anyone who'd like to second that? I think councillor Toft just about. So we've got a proposal, we've got a second there. Any final comments before we go to the votes? Okay, in case let's move to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. So that is item 12 carried. No, it's not. Sorry, that was item 11 carried. Now we are on to item 12. Thank you, Will. That was quite a long, long session for you there. But thank you for your inputs and all your efforts. So item 12 is the community survey report, 2025-26, with year-on-year comparison. And this is going to be introduced by Town Clerk James.
Thank you. Yeah, members will have read the report and the accompanying appendices, which has all the detail in, but there are a few things I just wanted to highlight to you all. So the 2025-26 survey shows that residents are engaged, informed and increasingly focused on the town's longer term future. Most respondents had not needed to contact the council directly, suggesting interaction is mainly through indirect channels rather than direct service requests. Communication is largely digital, with social media being the most used source of information, followed by the council website and local media. However, some residents report receiving no council information at all, highlighting a possible gap in our communications reach. Residents' key priorities include improving cleanliness and safety, supporting local businesses, reducing empty shops, improving transport links, and providing more inclusive and accessible facilities. There is also a desire for more year-round activities rather than a focus on seasonal tourism. And I do appreciate that a lot of these messages are not new to us as a council and to you as councillors. Many of these concerns fall under Dorset Council's responsibility, and we will share the feedback with Dorset Council to address within its areas of control, such as the accessibility in projects and improved cleanliness, through our introduction of 2 community caretakers later in 2026. A comparison with previous surveys shows that with regard to the 2024 survey, the focus has shifted from complaints about customer service issues, so delays for follow-up, difficulty contacting the council, to a stronger demand for proactive communication, transparency and ongoing engagement. Looking at the 2023 survey, feedback there was more focused on parks, gardens and open spaces, with concerns about litter, dog fouling and facilities. These environmental concerns remain in 2025-26, but are now part of wider concerns about overall town cleanliness, safety and quality of life. Across all three surveys, several trends do stand out. Firstly, cleanliness remains a constant concern, particularly litter and dog fouling. Resident expectations have broadened, moving from specific service issues to wider concerns about infrastructure, economic development and inclusivity. Thirdly, communication has become a priority, with residents expecting more regular, accessible and transparent updates, especially online. And lastly, residents remain unclear about the different roles of Weymouth Town Council as opposed to Dorset Council, leading to expectations being raised that are outside this council's control. Overall, residents are now less focused on individual services and more concerned with long-term quality of life, economic sustainability and community wellbeing. The findings suggest growing expectations for the council to take a proactive leadership role in shaping the town's future while maintaining its core services. Officers will use these results to inform future service planning and upcoming service plans for committee approval. Thank you, Chair. I'm more than happy to take questions if there are.
Councillor Lilly.
Yes, thank you very much. I don't mean to be a misery gut to the world, but I think that these surveys have to be taken with a pinch of salt. This is 400 people out of about 50,000 residents. That's the equivalent of about 75%. The people that are going to fill these in are going to be, I'm going to make a generalisation in, already engaged with council, business, etc. I mean, that graph on the board now, no, maybe political point, sort of reminds me of one that I see on a Liberal Democrat leaflet, in terms of the scope from 300 to 400. You know, it's a big leap for what is still an increase of 100 out of, say, 50,000. And that's not criticism of the town council. This is why I'm going to bring it back to councillors. Is actually the ultimate survey is what we as ward members get back from residents. Is that's my opinion. Myself and not this council digs, but the other council digs for outdoor knocking a little more on Monday, and having feedback from residents, etc., etc. And that's the real way a council should be out there communicating with constituents. Is that face-to-face relationship between elected member and public. So while I understand that these surveys do have to sort of come into things, I'm not going to use this as the basis for forming all my opinions, and I don't think it should form the basis of forming council policy or strategy.
Thank you. And I agree with many of the points. 400 out of 53,000 roughly. Obviously isn't what we like it to be. And I know some of the still as councillors, we try and push out these things, and I know you do that. I certainly do that through social media and things. It's a challenge, isn't it? How do we engage with more of our population and get them to partake? So a challenge on all of us there for that one. Councillor Waller.
I agree absolutely. You know, we're patting ourselves on the back that it's not a huge number, but it is an interesting number nevertheless, and the comments are very interesting. And I wonder whether, you know, we often wonder what we should be discussing at briefings and so on. And this might be something that we could drill down on at a short bit of a briefing sometime, town clerk, that what actually is the significance of some of those responses that came, because some of them don't seem to chime particularly with what the majority of members think. It just might be a useful subject, that's all. It's a shame that it's not more, but we shouldn't knock ourselves out. It is more than we've had in the past.
I've said that. That's a really valid thing for a briefing item. Also a discussion with members about how we push survey out to more people. I know there's lots of work going on that already, but someone might have that little nugget of information right out, so worthy of a bit of discussion. Yeah, anyone else? Councillor Thompson.
Well, I look for that people said they do not receive information from the council at all. And I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to mention it again. I think we should do something like Dorset Council does, and we should print information that goes to every councillor. And we put what we're doing, and we put all the contacts, and we put the links to surveys like this for people who are perhaps not on Facebook or whatever, and we should try a little bit harder to reach more people. That's my opinion.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I think we should be pleased that we've seen a 25% increase in response rate. That's a good increase. Yes, it's still a small proportion of the population of Weymouth. But a 25% increase is good. What I will say as well, members, is some of this does ring to what we discuss here in committees. I picked up particularly around cleanliness of the town, overgrown verges. Councillor O'Leary, you mentioned that, a few of us mentioned that. That's why we've just employed, as the town clerk said, 2 community caretakers. You know, it does ring true to some of the things that we discuss as a council. But this is only one way we engage, and I think a lot of people engage with this council without realising they are engaging with this council. We run multiple social media platforms. We do pop-ups at community events. We organise our own community events. We've got a community expo coming up. Our comms team are constantly putting things out in the Echo from us. Just because it's printed in the Echo, it's come from us. Will and the Summer's Day on the public announcement. There are multiple ways that our public engage with us that don't realise that they're engaging and receiving communication. So it's probably just how we word that. But you know, we cannot force people to engage with this process. There will be one's disillusioned with councils and local politics. And we can only really act on that want to engage with us. Now, whether that be through emailing a ward member, emailing the council, turning up here, asking questions, or engaging with us at one of our pop-ups, that's how we can engage. And we can only represent those that want to communicate with us, whether that's us as elected members knocking on doors, leafleting, receiving emails, or one of those other methods I alluded to. So I would be interested to see, you know, some of this summarised a little bit more about the top 5 in each area. We can obviously run this through some AI software to help analyse it and get back to a member webinar or briefing. But no, congratulations to the office and in particular the comms team that were pushing this out to make sure that we did get that increase, and those members that also did it.
Thank you. Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, I think the most frightening number on there was that 48% of residents didn't, 45% of residents didn't know who their ward member was or had a. That's not acceptable, and that is down to nobody other than ward members, all of us, to double down, to get out there, to get them the grassroots. I mean, we talk about pushing the survey, we do this for a number of years. I would be more inclined to scale them down the survey, make it a lot simpler, a lot less questions, and put responsibility not onto officers, as we do all the time with things, but putting it back to ward members who are elected representatives of residents. We're all residents, everybody in this council is a resident of Weymouth, and getting it back down to that basics, that we are meant to be the ones out there trying to get the feel for opinion. We're not sent here to do just what residents want, because we don't know how every resident in our ward feels. It's a fine balance act to try and work out what residents want, what residents feel, what, you know, we have to then take into account the facts we're given. So our job really should be as ward members to get out there and to get more involved, more out there. I always say in my ward, I don't care whether they like me or not, I want them to know where I am if somebody needs me. People throw things at me.
Thank you very much. That's right.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said. The additional point I wanted to make is I welcome the fact that the full evidence on which the report was based was given to us, and I think that supports evidence-based approach to council voting on decisions that are important. And I welcome if we have more of examples of where the full evidence is provided, not just the officers' summary report.
Yeah, and that will happen on certain issues. So, for example, a 20 mile per hour survey at some point.
Where we're able to, can we work with this thing?
Where we're able to, yeah. So it does happen on particular issues and topics as well, but also, you know, there's a lot of valuable points being raised this evening. But we can still make use of the findings. They are still useful. They are indicative. They are issues that are important to those 400 people. So therefore, you know, they're all taken on board and all form discussions we'll have in the future. And also the briefing that was suggested, I think is a very valid suggestion to you know, drill down through this data and information and work out what it means for us. I think it's a really good, positive step to take. So, very much welcome that. The officer recommendation is just for us to note the report and the findings of the 25-26 community survey. So I don't think that warrants a vote. So thank you very much. Thank you for presenting that item. On to 13, item 13, these are the information items. So members are asked to note the information items. Actually, so I do encourage members to read through those and you know, approach officers outside of this meeting if you've got questions or any points of interest. There's lots there, lots of positive activity happening. So very much welcome many of those information items. And that brings us to the end of the meeting. So at 20:35 on the 22nd of April 2026, I hereby end the meeting.
Just be underneath.